Chapter 8. Shooting is easy. At the end of the summer, I was again without a teacher. Mother was not happy about Margot's feelings for Peter, or his interest in Margot. Leslie wanted to shoot Peter. Larry thought about sending the lovers to Athens until they were bored with spending all their time together. Mother did not like either idea, and in the end she asked Peter to leave. Margot cried and said that she was ready to die. Spiro's friends watched the coast. Peter must not come back. We all enjoyed ourselves. Winter came slowly. The shooting season started, and Leslie often returned home with bags of dead animals and birds. One day he was telling us about killing one of the birds. "It was very difficult," he said at the end. "Why?" said Larry. "Shooting is easy." "Oh, so you can hit a bird when it's flying, can you?" Leslie asked angrily. "You just keep your arm still," said Larry. "That's all." "Right," said Leslie. "I want to see you shoot something. Tomorrow?" "Fine." The next morning we all went to watch Larry. It was cold, and the ground was wet, and Larry said that words were enough. He did not have to do anything. We did not listen to him. Larry carried Leslie's gun, and he lifted it and shot at the first bird he saw. "It's a good idea to put a bullet in the gun," said Leslie with a smile. "I thought you did that," Larry answered. He put bullets into the gun. Larry was walking near a shallow pool when another bird flew out. He shot at it, and the gun hit his shoulder. He fell back into the pool, and the bird flew away. It took half an hour to pull him out because the mud at the bottom of the pool came up to his shoulders. "Are you all right?" asked Margot. "I'm fine," said Larry. "I'm really enjoying myself. My back hurts, my shoulder hurts, I'm getting a cold, and my shoes are at the bottom of that mud." When we arrived home, Larry told Lugarezia to make a big fire in his room, and he went to bed with 3 bottles of wine. After a few hours, he was singing happily. "He's had too much to drink," said Margot after a visit to his room. Mother went upstairs. Larry looked at her. "Who are you?" he asked, and fell asleep. Early the next morning, Margot ran into Mother's room. "The house is on fire!" she shouted. Mother jumped out of bed. "Wake Jerry up!" Leslie and I ran out of our rooms. "What's happening?" Leslie asked. "Fire! Larry's on fire!" Margot shouted in his ear. Larry was asleep in a room full of smoke. Mother shook him. "Wake up, Larry! Wake up!" Larry sat up. "What's the problem?" "The room's on fire, dear." "We'll put water on it," Larry said helpfully. "Margot, you find a large pot." Larry stayed in bed and gave us orders. When the fire was out, the room was full of smoke, burnt wood, water, and empty bottles. "There you are," said Larry. "Easy. Can someone bring me a cup of tea? I've got a bad headache." Chapter 9. Larry's next idea. Spring came again. The family ate, slept, read, and talked. Once a week, Spiro brought our post to us, and we read our letters to the others. Aunt Hermione wants to come here, Mother said. She thinks that the warm weather will be good for her health. No, no, cried Larry. Not Lugarezia's mouth and Aunt Hermione. Tell her that there's no room here. But I told her that we had a big villa, dear, said Mother. We've got to move, said Larry. It's the only answer. Move where? Asked Mother. To a smaller villa. Then she can't come. But we can't change villas all the time. It's a good idea, said Leslie. It's very sensible. Margot agreed. So we moved house again. Part 3. The White Villa. Chapter 10. The Magpies. The new villa was as white as snow. I had new gardens to play in and different animals to make friends with. One afternoon, I climbed a tree and found 4 soft, fat baby magpies. I put the largest and the smallest inside my shirt and climbed carefully down again. When I arrived home, I showed the birds to the family and asked them for names. Aren't they sweet? Said Margot. What do they eat? Asked Mother. They're ugly, said Larry. Not more animals, said Leslie. What are they? They're baby magpies, I replied, and I want ideas for names, not what you think about them. The things Master Jerry's finds, cried Spiro. What's you calls those birds? Magpies, Spiro, Mother said slowly and clearly. Magpies? Spiro repeated. Magpies, Margot told him. That's what I says, said Spiro, getting angry. Magpies. So we called the birds the magpies. I built a cage for them outside. They were welcome in my bedroom and not in any of the other rooms. But the room that they were really interested in was Larry's. If they came near it, he threw things at them. They decided that he had something to hide. One day, Larry found me in the garden and pulled me upstairs to his bedroom. There were papers all over the floor, and holes in many of them. Pens and pencils were everywhere. Do something about those birds, or I'm going to kill them, he screamed at me. I explained that the magpies were just interested in things. They didn't know that they were doing anything wrong. Lock them in their cage, or I'll kill them, Larry repeated. The rest of the family heard his shouts and came upstairs. Larry, what have you done? Mother asked, looking through his door. I am not going to answer stupid questions, said Larry. The magpies? Asked Leslie. Your papers are very untidy. Did they do that? Asked Mother. Larry looked at her. You really are a very intelligent woman, he said. Chapter 11. Alko. Below the villa was a line of fields. I was lying in the fields one day when I noticed a stranger watching me. Where are you from? The man asked. I'm English, and my family live in a villa in the hills. Where are you going? I asked. To the sea, to my boat, he answered. And you? I wanted to go down to the sea too, so we walked together. Where are you from? I asked as we walked. I come from here, from the hills, he said. But I am now at Vido. This was strange. Vido was a small island near the town of Corfu. Only prisoners lived there, I thought. I told him this. "That's right," he said. "I'm a prisoner. If you're a good prisoner, you can build a boat and sail home for the weekend. I must be back there on Monday morning." This seemed sensible. I knew that you could not leave an English prison for the weekend, but this was Corfu. I wanted to ask why he was in prison, but I could not think of a polite way to do it. Then we arrived at his boat. There was a very large bird on it. I touched it with my hand. "Be careful, he bites," the man said quickly. But the bird did nothing. "He likes you," the man said, surprised. "You can have him if you want. He eats a lot and he bites the other prisoners." I did not think about my family. I took the bird. "I call him Alko," the man said. "Come back here tomorrow and we'll catch some fish for him." I said thank you, and then I remembered something. I asked about his name and why he was in prison. "My name's Kosti," he said. "Kosti Panopoulos. I killed my wife." He pushed his boat into the water and climbed in. "Until tomorrow," he called. It was a long walk home because Aleko was very heavy. Mother and Margot met me at the door. "What's that?" asked Mother. "It's very big," said Margot. The others came to see the new bird. Aleko looked at them and started moving his mouth. "It's dangerous," said Larry. "Where are you going to keep him?" Mother asked. I decided to make the magpie's cage into two. Mother thought that this was a good idea. "Where did you get it?" Leslie asked. I explained about my meeting with Kosti, and without thinking, about the prison on Vido. I told them about Kosti's weekend visits and our plan to go fishing. "I don't like the idea, dear," Mother said. "You don't know what he did?" "Yes, I do," I said. "He killed his wife." "A murderer?" Mother cried. "And he walks round in the fields? Jerry, you mustn't go fishing with him." In the end, she agreed that I could go if Leslie came and looked at the man first. So, after the next day's fishing, I had plenty of food for Aleko. Chapter 12. Birds, Snakes, and a Party. The house was busy. Farmers arrived with bags of fruit, vegetables, and chickens. Margot lay on the dining room floor and made large pictures on brown paper. Leslie stood in the middle of pieces of furniture, trying to decide where to put them. Mother cooked in the kitchen with the help of two local girls. I went from room to room and helped, if I could. Upstairs in his bedroom, Larry was asleep. The family was getting ready for a party. When the day arrived, I found that some of my snakes in the pool outside were killing the fish. I moved the snakes to a large tin. A little later, I noticed that the tin was in the sun, and the snakes were lying on top of the water without moving. They looked dead. I ran into the house with them. The only way to save them, I explained to Mother, was to put them in a cold bath. Mother agreed, and the snakes soon looked better. I left them there and went outside again to look at the tables. In the middle of a beautiful dish of food sat the magpies. There were knives and forks everywhere, and bottles of beer lay in pieces on the ground. One of the birds walked slowly towards me with a flower in his mouth and fell off the table. They were both full of beer. Mother came out. After a few angry words, she was calmer. "You must close their cage, dear." "Well, I can't really be angry with them if they've drunk too much. They don't know what they're doing." I took the magpies back to their cage, and of course Alko was not there either. I hoped that he was on the beach and that he planned to stay there. The first visitors arrived. Leslie came out of the trees after a few hours of shooting and went into the house. Suddenly there was a shout. "What's the matter with Leslie?" asked Mother. He arrived in the garden wearing only a small towel. The visitors all looked at him. "What's the matter, dear?" Mother asked. "Snakes!" shouted Leslie. "The bath is full of snakes!" "Why don't you put some clothes on, dear?" "Great big snakes!" I agreed that Jerry could put them there, dear. "I'm sorry, they were very sick." Mother turned to the visitors to explain. "Really, Mother," said Larry. "Don't you start," said Mother. "Leslie was the one in the bath with the snakes, not you." "Am I going to have a bath or not?" Leslie asked. "All right," said Mother. "Jerry, take the snakes out of the bath and put them in a pot or something." "Outside!" Leslie shouted. "Don't shout, dear, don't shout." When I returned to the garden, Larry was explaining everything to the visitors. "There are animals in every corner of the house," he was saying. "There are dangerous scorpions and wild magpies. There's danger at any time of the day or night." "Well," said Mother quickly, "lunch is ready." Everyone sat down happily. Then two of the visitors screamed and jumped out of their chairs. "Oh dear, now what's happened?" Mother asked. "It's probably scorpions again," Larry said. The only person who was brave enough to look under the table was Theodore. "Ah," he said, "it seems to be a large black and white bird." "Jerry, catch that bird," Larry ordered. "The soup's getting cold." Alko was not happy. I fought with him under the table, and when he was back in his cage, I was hot and tired. We ate and we drank. After that, the visitors were too full to do anything but lie and rest in the garden. Tea was another wonderful meal. And then we all lay on the grass again, and night fell. The sky was soft and black. The smell of the flowers was beautiful. The return. In the end, Mother realized that I needed some real lessons. She decided to take us back to England. The family was not happy. But one day we said goodbye to our friends and left the villa. When we arrived at the ship, Spiro shook our hands without speaking. Then he stood and looked at us. "Wells, goodbyes," he said, and he started to cry. "I didn't want to cry," he said, "but you're like my families." We climbed onto the ship and started across the sea. Corfu slowly disappeared, and we were all very sad. We sat silently in the train while it crossed Italy and Switzerland. Above our heads, the magpies talked, and Alko screamed. Roger lay at our feet. When we left Switzerland, a man came to look at our passports. He gave them back to Mother with a piece of paper. Mother read it. "Look at this," she said angrily. Larry looked at the paper and laughed. On the paper, under description of passengers were the words, "One travelling zoo." The train continued towards England. Chapter 8. Shooting